This hormone is silently killing you. Your doctor treats the symptoms, not the cause. By 45, most men have it. Here's how to spot it and reverse it.
What if I told you that the belly that won't budge, the testosterone you can feel slipping away, the brain fog that hits mid-afternoon, the erections that started failing in your 40s, and the energy crashes that no amount of coffee can fix? What if I told you these are not 5 separate problems? They're 5 warning lights for the same engine failure. The mainstream medical system will treat them like 5 different issues, but inside your body, a single story is unfolding. It starts with a hormone you've heard of, insulin. Its job is to move sugar from your blood into your cells for energy. But over time, your cells can start to ignore insulin's knock. They become resistant. So your pancreas, trying to get the message through, starts shouting. It pumps out more and more insulin. All that extra insulin forces sugar into storage, specifically as visceral fat, the deep, dangerous fat that wraps around your organs. And here's the part nobody tells you. This isn't just dormant fat. Visceral fat is an active hormone-disrupting factory. It produces an enzyme called aromatase. And what aromatase does is take your testosterone and convert it directly into estrogen. The more visceral fat you have, the less testosterone you keep. And the lower your testosterone, the more visceral fat you accumulate. It's a vicious loop that tightens with each passing year. A 2005 study in diabetes care found that men with low testosterone had 3 times the rate of metabolic syndrome as men with normal levels. Same age, same lifestyle. The only difference was their hormone status, driven by insulin sensitivity. Then there's the brain fog. Researchers have started calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. Why? Because the same insulin signaling failure that's happening in your body is happening in your brain. Your brain runs on glucose. When your brain cells can't pull in that glucose because of insulin resistance, your prefrontal cortex is essentially running on fumes all day for decades. That slow cognitive decline isn't just getting older, it's your brain slowly starving. Erectile dysfunction tells the same story from a different angle. The delicate vascular system that allows for an erection is the exact same one that keeps your heart beating. A major 2009 study from the Mayo Clinic followed over 1,400 men for nearly a decade. They found that erectile dysfunction was a powerful, independent predictor of future heart disease. When a man in his late 40s starts losing morning erections, what he's actually losing is healthy blood vessel function. The penis is the canary, the heart is the coal mine. And the energy crashes, that wall you hit at 3 p.m. Inside every single one of your cells are mitochondria, the tiny power plants that create the energy your body uses. When insulin resistance messes up their fuel supply, they don't get enough glucose cleanly. They sputter. That feeling of being drained isn't aging. It's your mitochondrial output collapsing because the entire upstream system is broken. These 5 downstream symptoms have one shared engine. Your doctor might give you 5 different pills for them, but they may not tell you that you have one upstream problem causing all 5. And before anyone under 40 thinks they're safe, this cascade doesn't just switch on when you get older. It builds silently for 15 to 20 years before that. What you do in your 30s decides the man you'll be in your 40s. The same applies to women who face a parallel version of this loop through perimenopause. The biology differs in the details, but the upstream mechanism is the same. It's not 5 separate battles against aging. It's one war against a single hidden process. And knowing that is the first step.
Insulin resistance isn't something you wake up with one morning. It's a slow burn, building for a decade or 2 before it ever shows up on a blood test. Your fasting glucose can look perfectly normal, while behind the scenes, your insulin level is silently doubling. By the time your doctor's standard panel finally catches it, the cellular damage is already 10 years old. So how does it actually happen? There are 4 main drivers, and most of us are exposed to all 4 for most of our adult lives. First, chronic refined carbs and sugar. Every time you eat processed flour or something that converts to glucose quickly, your pancreas dumps insulin to handle the spike. Do this 5 times a day for 30 years, and your cells start to ignore the signal. They become resistant, the same way your ears eventually stop hearing a sound that never stops playing. Second is a lack of resistance training. Your muscle cells have a gateway protein that pulls glucose out of your blood for storage. As you age past 40, this gateway starts to disappear. Resistance training is the one intervention proven to rebuild it. Without strength training, you lose the very mechanism your body uses to clear glucose from your bloodstream. And that glucose has to go somewhere, which is usually your visceral fat. Third is sleep debt, and this might be the most underrated driver of all. Just one single night of bad sleep creates measurable insulin resistance the very next morning. A 2010 study confirmed this in healthy adults with no other risk factors. One bad night makes your metabolism functionally older than you are. Now imagine stacking that damage across years of late bedtimes and short sleep. And fourth, chronic stress and late-night eating. Stress-driven cortisol tells your liver to release glucose even when you haven't eaten. Then, when you eat a late dinner, your body is in the wrong circadian phase to process it. Your insulin response after a 9 p.m. meal is dramatically worse than for the same meal eaten at noon. The modern combination of work stress and late dinners is a 1-2 punch on your system. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. The damage from all 4 of these accumulates silently. You can be insulin resistant for 15 years before a single number on a routine blood test even hints at it. By the time your fasting glucose is borderline high, your beta cells, the cells in your pancreas that make insulin in the first place, have already been working overtime for a decade. And those beta cells don't regenerate well once they burn out. That's the tipping point. That's when the condition turns from reversible to merely manageable. Once you've burned out enough of your insulin-producing cells, you cross a line. The protocols that work for everyone else stop working for you. You don't get to fix it anymore. You only get to manage it with medication for the rest of your life. The DIRECT trial, published in The Lancet in 2018, showed type 2 diabetes can be put into remission with intense intervention, but the success rate dropped sharply the longer someone had the disease. Catch it early, you can reverse it. Wait too long, and the same intervention does almost nothing. This tipping point is what many men hit somewhere between 45 and 55. It's the window where this whole cascade either gets shut down or starts owning the next 20 years of your life. Now for the part that should make anyone listening angry. The standard of care for everything you've just heard is to treat each symptom as its own separate disease. You walk into your doctor's office at 50. You have low energy, weight gain around your middle, brain fog, maybe the start of erectile issues, and slightly elevated blood sugar. You won't be told about the root cause. You'll just be sent home with 5 different prescriptions. You walk out of the doctor's office with a handful of prescriptions. A statin for the cholesterol that crept up, an antidepressant for the brain fog they're calling cognitive aging, testosterone replacement for the low T that came from your visceral fat, which they never tied back to your blood sugar, metformin because your fasting glucose finally crossed the line, and maybe a little pill for the erection issue, which they framed as a completely separate vascular problem. 5 prescriptions for life, and not one of them touches the upstream cause. Now, there's a reason this is the standard. It isn't a conspiracy, it's just the structure of the system. The way insurance billing and pharmaceutical research work, each symptom has its own code, its own drug, its own profit channel. Fixing 5 problems with 5 pills is more billable, more measurable, and more legally defensible than telling someone to change how they eat and sleep. The incentives all point away from prevention and toward lifelong management. But here's the piece nobody tells you as you walk out that door. Many of the medications you were just handed can actually make the root cause, insulin resistance, worse over time. Some statins are linked with new-onset type 2 diabetes in long-term studies. Many antidepressants are associated with significant weight gain, which just compounds the problem. And that testosterone replacement? Once you start, it often shuts down your body's own production, making the dependency permanent.
You can end up worse off with the real problem still progressing, now with multiple prescription side effects stacked on top. If you're starting to feel like you've been gaslit your entire adult life about what's happening inside your body, you have been. Not maliciously, just structurally. The system is brilliant at acute care, but it's unprepared and frankly uninterested in metabolic prevention. The good news is you don't need them for this. Insulin resistance is one of the most reversible conditions in human biology if you catch it in time, and the methods that reverse it are some of the cheapest, most accessible, and most well-studied interventions in science. They cost almost nothing and require no prescription. Let's talk about the first one, early time-restricted eating. Most people think of intermittent fasting as a tool for weight loss, but that's not what makes it work for insulin resistance. The real mechanism is circadian alignment, syncing your eating schedule with your body's natural insulin rhythm. A landmark 2018 study in the journal Cell Metabolism gives us a perfect picture of this. Researchers took men with pre-diabetes and put them on a simple schedule. They could eat whatever they wanted, but only within a 6-hour window, with their last meal before 3 p.m. After just 5 weeks, every single participant's insulin sensitivity, blood pressure, and oxidative stress markers had measurably improved. And here's the crucial part. They hadn't lost any weight. The timing itself was the medicine. The practical version, for those of us with actual lives, is even simpler. Stop eating at least 3 hours before you go to bed. Don't eat the moment you wake up. Just keep your eating window squarely inside the daylight hours of your day. Do that 7 days a week. It's a profound shift from endlessly managing downstream symptoms to fixing the upstream cause. And the power to make that shift isn't found in a prescription pad. It's on your clock.
The first instruction is specific: resistance training. Not running, not cardio, strength training. Because it directly rebuilds the cellular gateways in your muscles that pull sugar out of your blood. Think of them as doors that have gotten rusty. Studies show just 12 weeks of progressive strength training can pry those doors open, boosting your muscles' ability to manage glucose and improving insulin sensitivity. You don't need a fancy gym. 2 or 3 sessions a week, focusing on compound movements and gradually adding weight. Your body responds to that signal, even at 50, even at 60. The second part of the manual isn't about work, it's about recovery, sleep. And not just how many hours you get. The real power is in your sleep architecture, its consistency and quality. Your insulin sensitivity is at its most fragile during deep sleep, which is when your body does critical metabolic repair. Cut that phase short, even once, and your insulin response is broken the next day. The fixes aren't glamorous. Go to bed at the same time. Make your room completely dark. And avoid food and screens in the last hour. They may be the least sexy biohacks, but they're among the most powerful. So what to avoid? The list is shorter than you think. Limit refined carbs, especially sugar in liquid form. Stop eating in the last 3 hours before bed. And finally, when you see your doctor, ask for one specific number: fasting insulin. Don't settle for just fasting glucose. Glucose is the lagging indicator. It's the alarm that goes off when the fire is already burning. Insulin is the early warning, the smoke detector. It's about sending clear signals. Lift heavy things, protect your sleep window like it's your job, and get the right data. That's how you take back control.